Bueno. Welcome back, everybody, to the South Star Classroom. I am your co-host, Omar Yanad. We got with us, as always, our faithful leader, the real doctor, who's been grinding it out, helping shape all the podcasts. The big ass podcast reunion tour recently over at the National Charter Alliance. We got the man, Dr. Charles Cole. Doc, brother, how you feeling today, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I went on Chris's show and I don't know why they thought I was a World Cup expert. I'm not. I'm just a fan. But I was just saying I'm surprised that France got shut out. I just didn't expect them to get shut out. I wanted to see Mbappe up there, but now I want to see if Argentina can pull it out. But we'll see. So I don't know. David has some faces over there, so I think David. Who you going over there for, David?
The World Cup?
Yeah. Did you just watch the France game? It just went off. So
yeah. I mean, at this point, so it's interesting because I start with my two home countries. So for me, that would be Mexico and the USA. Mm-hmm. And then as those teams start to get peeled off, I have strong associations with other countries, but now I'm to the point where Mexican DNA is part Spanish DNA. So now I'm going to affiliate myself with the conquistadores, right?
I was going to say the colonizer.
Yeah, but it's also fascinating watching World Cup because some of it's just immigration, but a lot of it, you can really see the relationship between an imperialist like Europe post World War I, and colonization, and thinking primarily about the African countries and where African players end up playing in European teams. It's really fascinating. It's like you could do a whole history thing just by watching the World Cup and being like, why are so many of these European team players African black,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a really good ass point.
I mean, and I know there's a lot there. It's not my sport, and again, I know I ain't trying to step on the intro, bro. It's not my sport. So now that the U.S. is out, I'm kind of looking at the best talent. I wanted to see Mbappe and Messi. I wanted to see those guys. I want to see, I'm interested to see what Messi does. I know he's been having a pretty good World Cup, but I see our guest talking. He said, "Damn Nazi friendly Argentina." I wasn't thinking of it like that, but I hear you. People like what they like, so I understand. But I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, he's historically quite correct. We all know about this, right?
That's what I'm saying.
The Vatican helped extradite Nazis to Argentina, and Argentina was like, yes, let them all come, including two of the most nefarious Nazis, including the dude who was doing all the experiments. So I'm with our guest right now on that one, man.
Or Mengele, whatever.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, David, you know your shit. That's right, man.
Yeah, but I'm
not
the biggest soccer fan, but World Cup, I love that it was here. It seemed like it was a good experience for a lot of people that came, and but I was watching it in the barbershop, man. I was surprised that I thought they would put up a better fight. Anyway,
I wish we could do a whole show on the World Cup. You're right, David. We should be looking at the examination of colonialism and how just as a history show, just as a purely fascinating history show. My favorite has been the Scots and the Irish. I don't know if you've checked out all these fantastic reels on Instagram, and if you haven't, you got to check them out. They're fantastic. The Scots basically drank all the beer in Boston, and I'm not lying. Sam Adams completely ran out of beer, and they were just one of the friendliest, coolest group of people. They love the Mexicans, the Scots, the South Koreans, the Irish. They didn't want to leave Mexico. The Nords loved Mexico. We just were with a group of Nords that were with us. I just came back from there, that were with us there. And I got to say, my brother-in-law is quite literally half Norwegian, which is nuts. He's Mexican Norwegian, if you can believe
Wow.
that, David.
Got you.
Yeah,
And I mean,
it's a lot of work.
Dad was 100%.
Yeah. And I started watching FIBA too. Now that the world has caught up, and United States is still like kind of a cut above, like not counting like the best player that might come from France or Lithuania, but like now that the world stage is getting a little bit better, I enjoy watching FIBA. But I did enjoy watching the world come to the United States and kind of interact and like, oh shit, like like it was cool. So anyway, everything don't have to be negative. I'm sure I can find some negativity in there, but
I think that's the whole point of the World Cup is supposed to be like incredible
super political.
positivity.
We know that. I don't want to ignore it, but but as a fan,
well, I mean, FIFA.
I watched that Egypt game.
The actual organization of FIFA
is super corrupt.
Is
the most corrupt in the world.
Corrupt.
It's a beautiful documentary on it.
The team from Iran had to stay in Tijuana and could only come into the US for like basically drop in and go right back out.
That sucks.
What else happened? Donald Trump called in a phone call, and now FIFA's terrible. Being investigated by the International Olympic Committee. I'm like, dude, come on.
Right.
Anyways, yeah.
Jube, just give me a thumbs up when you want to come in. Go ahead, Omar. No, I just want to. I was giving her. She might not be ready. I can see her. She give me a thumbs up. I'll bring her up.
I was really pissed off at the Argentina Egypt game because, dude, I watched a ton of these games, and I'm like super bummed that I completely forgot about today's France and Spain. David, I'm with you. Even more so, it's not just the Mexicanism. We have some pretty direct Spanish leniency to the Basque region and Galicia. Like my grandmother, like, Christ, man, like talk about your like Mexican, Spanish, like Creole, like green eyes and shit. But I'm extremely proud of the Mexican heritage that we have. I love that mix, particularly the indigenous part. But hey, man, we got to come to terms. Like there's a Spanish part. And I am all for Spain at this point, and I was not all for Argentina robbing a game from Egypt. I thought that was like BS, man. I did not like that because, dude, I was watching these games and the games themselves were so incredible. Like the Mexico-England game, that Mexico laid everything that they had out. It was, for the most part, a very clean game, a very ethical game. I think the French play a pretty clean and ethical game. The English are incredible. They're just an exceptionally good team. But Egypt beat the shit out of Argentina. And that was just some like weird calls and weird BS. And I just don't like to see that because you're right about the corruption. And I don't think that should be playing a part in what should be a very clean, world kind of inspiring game and entity like the World Cup. So that upset me immensely. Jube, we're talking World Cup here. Have you gotten to see any of the games? Are you even interested? Do you care? Our queen is here, everybody.
I know we missed you. We're happy to see you.
Hi. I missed y'all too. I always miss y'all. I was in Costa Rica having a blast watching the sunset.
That's amazing.
I was tickled because they had a whole section for the World Cup. So every single time that there was a game while we were there, like, why are these people hovering over there? And then we go, oh, like, oh, the World Cup. Yeah. And so, of course, people from all across the world were in Costa Rica. So it was definitely a big deal. We stopped for a second and kind of peeked at the screen, but we didn't stay. We had to go to get something else.
It's still going on. That we're talking about the game. There was a game that just ended, so it's still going on. So yes. I don't know if you'll catch any of it.
No, but if you all have recommendations, I might watch one. I was saying to my sister, I'm like, this is the sucky part about being an American, like in an egocentric environment such as the one we live in, because growing up, it was always, American sports, like basketball. And even though when we win, we call ourselves like the international champions, which is kind of funny because it's really just here. But football, basketball. So I wasn't really like exposed to soccer like that. And it's an incredible sport. So it's never too late. I'll watch a game. If you're invested in any game coming up, let me know, and I will get a whistle, and I will watch it and scream for your team.
Well, I think there's only 2 games left. So there's the next
3.
game. No, this one, and then now there's the last knockout game, and then it'll be the World Cup. I think it's only
No, there's a 3rd place playoff, my man.
Oh,
so there'll be the Argentina, England. The loser of that will play France in the 3rd place, and then the winner will play Spain in the final. So we got 3 games left.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Who y'all rooting for?
Spain.
Charles.
I want Messi. I want to see Messi, but we'll see.
Yes, but my son taught me about.
I wanted Messi and Mbappe. Once the United States is out, and you can kind of root for players. Then I was going for Mbappe and Messi, but I'm not.
You might still see that because I actually think that I don't think Argentina is going to beat England. I think England. I've been watching. I've been watching the English. They were supposed to get to where they got to. So no, they weren't. They lost to Egypt, and they lost fair and square to Egypt.
Messi about to come with 3 more. He about to come with 3 goals, bro. He about to do it again.
Man. We'll see about that. And it's not that I'm one for the other. I'm just for like clean, ethical play. And the English are playing out of control good. It's just an exceptional game out there.
Spain looked really, really, really good too, bro. They looked unstoppable.
That's what I like to hear, man.
I'd never seen Mbappe bottled up and just shut down like that, bro. That's
impressive.
It was a lot. He didn't even get, like, they were marching and then I never seen it, bro. It's like somebody stopping Shaq, like pushing Shaq. And you just like, wait, what? Anyway, we got to get us in the topic. I'm sorry. I know y'all were big on the World Cup, so I had to meet my people where they was at,
So, I'm ecstatic to talk about the World Cup and get to see Jube again. Jube, we missed you.
No,
I think we are. Are we back, or did we do last week? I think we're back, right? Like we took 2 weeks off.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay.
It was 1 week off.
If memory serves me correct.
It was just one off. It was, y'all were talking about doing 2 weeks off, but it was 1 week off. And then I showed the live version, which a lot of people watched and enjoyed. And you guys looked really, really good. So It was good. It was fun.
Man, I gotta check that out, man. It's weird seeing yourself. I try to avoid it at all costs because it's just freaky. But maybe I can grab a couple pointers on how to improve.
Well, David hosted the hell out of that episode, man. He put that live show together. It wasn't much I could do for any of it. Y'all saw me running around, and David just it was just great. It was impressive. It was great background. Thank you, David. It was really, really good. It was a great discussion.
Oh, it was great. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, well done. Well done. The bearded knowledge, man. Well, today we're talking something that I think is near and dear to all of our hearts. And interestingly enough, Doc has done a couple shows on this. We usually focus on K through 12. We do some outreach into the college community. We should do a little bit more into like the upper education world as you get into this, pretty much highly complicated AI-driven future that we're looking at. And as we look at this AI-driven future and we look at what do we need to succeed, I think I'm shocked, kind of worried, a little not verklempt, as they would say on Saturday Night Live. Jube, you've been reading all about this. Adult literacy rates. And I want to kind of quickly give you guys the floor because I've got just a quick kind of introductory question just to get our feet wet about this. But for our audience, long story short, we look at ton of K through 12, but I wanted to take a quick examination into like, how are the adults doing? Can adults of the United States read? Now, for this episode, it's very US centric. Wasn't really looking at international research. Perhaps that's something that I should look into just as a comparative sake. However, what profounds me is that according to a lead study by the Department of Education, a couple other places, over 54% of American adults read at a 6th grade level or below. And for all intents and purposes, I don't want to say that's illiterate, but it's kind of a very marginally functioning literate state. Ultimately, because so much of documents, policies, voting, mortgages, things that we interact with on a daily basis. I mean, have you read these things? They are complicated for me. Imagine where a person with a 6th grade literacy level is at. And I just want to open it up to our audience, and then to David, Doc, and Jube, and maybe Doc, because you've talked a lot about it, you can kind of lead us off. But Doc, what's your just kind of initial thought about this? And really, I want to open us up with what's the detriment of a population, especially 54%? You're talking about over 150 million Americans can't read.
Man, I love the topic. I've been covering this the last few months, but I just did 2 shows on it. Those clips, by the way, are over 10,000 views. Like I've been covering it, and I had to dive into this, so this is really fresh. The literacy is plummeting here, and it's plummeting in a lot of different ways. And I think you made a really good point in the pre-reading that AI isn't going to improve that; it's going to exacerbate it in a lot of ways. And I think people don't truly understand what literacy is. It's not just your ability to read a word. It's your ability to read text, different language, hearing things, and do meaning making with it, right? To make and to form new thoughts. And so, you're starting to see it. You're seeing it in our weekend discourse. You're seeing it in how news is covered. You're seeing it in the fact that facts just continue to go by the wayside, and it's just easier to manipulate people, or people are waiting to be told what to think on things. So now, instead of being like, hey, let me go out and read this stuff and understand it for myself, it is, well, who do I like in social media, or which news do I like MSNBC, or do I like Fox? And let me wait for them to tell me what to think. And I just think
I don't even think it's God,
problem,
I wonder
man.
if it's even that anymore. Less than 2% of people are actually garnering their news from major media news
it could
outlets.
be your streamer,
So,
right?
like,
What's my
it's
favorite
become-
streamer?
It's becoming streaming.
Or think about our boys, right? Like the Manosphere, right? Like, the point is, if somebody is bird feeding you what to think, as opposed to like, hey, give me the original text, or like, hey, we'll read up on a topic and we all come with our thoughts on it and we learn from it. I really think we might be cooked, man. I just think we get into that place, and that's the detriment. And it's gonna I think it could get really bad. I gotta get this person out of here. I don't know who's spamming us, but you keep going. I'll fix this.
You don't want to read that?
All
Ned
right.
and Basha Dorisans in Glacis. What, you don't want to read all that? No.
I don't know if it's really a language or somebody's trolling, so I'm trying to decipher, but before I'm unfair. But
Okay,
continue.
it could be Greek,
Maybe translate it.
right?
I don't want to be racist. I don't want to be like, I don't know
Like,
your
I don't
language, so
wanna
you
read
gotta
the
go.
Greek.
But we get trolled on here, and me and David be having to block people. So let me do my job.
Oh man. So I have so many thoughts. Y'all know how I feel about education, literacy, math, all the things, but especially literacy, because it's really the gateway for so many things. So I'm like, well, how old or what grade were our current 30 and 40-year-olds in, 10 and 15 years ago, right? And so today's 30-year-old was like in or around 9th grade in 2010, 2011. That was like right before Common Core hit in. And then 2013, 2014, they were in 12th grade. Today's 40-year-old, a little less than 20 years ago, was in 9th grade and 12th grade. And I'm like, well, dag, we would have really had to fix this issue 10 years before that, And so I think we're talking about adult literacy, which I think it's never too late to learn, to read. But all the skills that you're talking about, Charles, that's really taught from pre-K to I'm stretching it to say 7th grade, because you can still, if you're able to build relationships with scholars, like you can still, the concrete is not hardened yet. You can still kind of pour some things in and help young learners to solidify some skills. But really, the reading comprehension, vocabulary, right? Being able to synthesize information, being able to deconstruct, language to figure out meaning, critical thinking, inferential thinking, stamina, focus, all that stuff is taught, or the foundation for that stuff is laid in elementary school and early elementary school. So for as long as we continue to miss those foundational years, like I don't think anything can really change that, honestly, unless we have a reading guild or a force that's like, nah, y'all gonna sit and learn today. We don't care if you 52. But really, that pre-K through second grade is critical, and that's one. And then two, we let these people hoodwink us, Fontes and Pinnell, and the Lucy Calkins of the world, people that said that what they were doing was scientific and research-based, and they made millions of dollars all across the nation to help teach kids how to read. And so now we've got the revelation that, oh, snap, we really need to be employing science of reading. Well, I mean, that's great, but today's 30 and 40-year-olds, they weren't being taught like that in school. They were being taught to guess. They were being taught to sound out words without the phonemic awareness needed to be able to do so. And so we have a full generations of children who didn't really learn how to read, even though we doubled reading time, right? So many schools decided, let's do more reading. Instead of having 45 minutes, let's have 90, right? Let's have 120. Let's do guided reading. Let's do small groups, interventions, all of that. But if the methodology was incorrect, then we have what we have here. And so I think in order for us to address this, we probably do have to talk more about what teaching adult literacy looks like, and then figure out how to fill the gap and build the foundation, because the foundation is necessary. It doesn't matter how old you get. If you don't have it, you'll never be a good reader. And it's harming us, as you stated earlier. So those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, man, that's a good segue for a question. And David, how do you feel about all this?
3 points, and I'll be concise. I think the biggest issue in general, or the biggest impact, is the issue around economic mobility, right? People's ability to get, high-paying, decent-paying jobs where they're able to sustain themselves and their families. And so we know that folks with limited literacy, are kind of locked into very low wage work and fields. So that's definitely an issue. Somebody mentioned it earlier. I think the AI divide is just going to the introduction of AI into our lives is just going to accelerate the divide. It'll accelerate the gap. Stronger readers will, inevitably use AI to become more productive, both on the personal front and on the in the world of work. And others will just continue to fall behind. I think the other thing is when we have this adult literacy crisis, we're talking about, intergenerational inequality. Parents that are not literate, can't help their children navigate systems, can't help their children, with homework and things like that. So it tends to be kind of a cycle similar to like the cycles of poverty that we know so well about. So it's a serious issue. I mean, I would say it's a national security issue. So.
I mean, that's such a good point about national security. And I wonder, it's just a conspiracy driven part of me. I wonder if this is on purpose or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wonder.
What I didn't mention, and I don't know if we've looked at it in the data, but I didn't mention like socioeconomics or like racial breakdowns of what this data looks like. But, you can sure as hell be guaranteed that of that 54% that were identified, overwhelming overrepresentation of people of color.
Indeed. Yeah. And it's, it's probably overwhelming people of color, but probably a lot of low-income people regardless. Mm-hmm. And that cycle of poverty continues. And I just oftentimes think, is this something that's done on purpose in order to keep a very uneducated population. Like if as you look into the rise of authoritarianism, that's usually coupled with like things burning books, propagandist history, getting rid of history, but then essentially keeping your population very illiterate. Because one of the things that I worry about immensely without heavy literacy is just the ability to separate fact from fiction. And we have an enormous population right now that cannot separate the BS and propaganda from the fact. And what is caused, and I've used this term a lot recently, but the term has been germane, which is just arrested development. You're stuck as this, sixth grader. You're stuck as this middle schooler. You're stuck as this high schooler in your intellect, in your capabilities, in your thinking, in your way that you view the world. You like gossip and you want to have conflict and you gravitate towards it. It's like all the kids in high school or middle school and the fight pops out and everyone's like, yeah, fight. And everyone's like running to do so, running to take a look. That worries me because I think ultimately in a significantly more elevated society of higher literacy, you look at conflict and fighting and you look at that as a detriment to society. You don't want to see someone harmed. You don't want to see people get hurt. And this has caused, I think, both the spin out of Fox News, which I'm not afraid to say that it's not news. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I don't know if you've watched the disclaimers before. Bill O'Reilly, John Hannity, Tucker Carlson, they have to give disclaimers that essentially say this isn't factual news. This is an opinion-based show. And they have to make that because they're spreading so many lies that they have to say so in order to avoid being sued. So it's not really news, but people grab onto it like it's fact. And that was then. Now you're talking about 2-minute clips online that are causing an immense amount of hatred and conflict because people can't decipher or think for themselves, is this BS or not? They just immediately say, okay, this must be true. I saw it on Facebook. I saw it on Instagram and they're spreading it. And I think that's a huge problem. So it leads into the first question, and Jube already kind of touched upon it. And I'm of two minds of it right now. Is this literacy problem something that should be solved in K through 12 education here in the United States? Or is this kind of a lifelong learning issue? Meaning like, should we schools K through 12 bear all the responsibility for this? Or should society and programs, like a New Deal or like the War on Poverty, governmental programs try to do something to uplift the adult literacy rate? What's y'all's opinion on that?
I think it's everybody's problem. I mean, whether or not everybody will take responsibility for it is another story, but I think it's mostly K-12's issue. I mean, with schools.
We're about to get a solid F-bomb from Jubilee.
Yes, because we're schools. So like, I don't understand like where else is this going to happen. Now, I do believe like as a parent, we do have a strong degree of liability and responsibility in this. Like there's no exonerating parents, right? And as a parent who is both, a parent and an educator who served in high need communities, my own communities that I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, I understand factors like stress, okay? Factors like when you're living in poverty and you have to work 2 and 3 jobs. And so expecting that when you drop Johnny off to school, that his teacher knows how to teach him how to read, right? And so when I used to make my speeches to my staff or my families when I was an AP or a principal, one of the things I would always talk about is how socioeconomic status and zip code do not determine outcomes for children. And I would tell them that even though I didn't grow up with a lot, you know, my family, my mom Jamaican, my dad Trinidadian, and me being a first generation, a lot of things, like, yeah, they didn't have a lot, but they had interest and they knew how to hold us accountable for what we had to do, making sure that we got up, ate breakfast, went to school, did our homework, what's your report card grade. So there's still that piece that's never going away. And I know we're talking about adult literacy, but we know this stuff starts when a kid is born. So I think it's everybody's problem because it impacts all of us. But I think it's mostly a K-12 issue. And really, it's a pre-K 2 issue, honestly. That's where it starts.
Yeah, I like that answer. Oh, go ahead, bro.
I get into this because and this is like a topic hot and heavy for David. Like, yeah, okay, great. This is a K through 12 issue. And honestly, Jubilee and Utopia, like, I agree with you. Like, I wish every kid was coming out of second grade reading perfectly. But then this is becoming that like teacher education program problem of just pure theoretics. Aren't any of us learning how to teach reading? Because again, I come in, sixth grade students, they're reading at a first grade or kindergarten level. And I have to fundamentally in the middle school take responsibility for teaching reading and ensuring not only they're taught how to read, but then get into the part of like reading to learn and so forth. So I all this to say is like, David, I'm sure you got an opinion on it, but I would say in a perfect world, it should be K through 2, but that ain't where we're living right now. And that's not at all what's happening. So I'm almost kind of saying like, all right, what now? The hell are we supposed to do now that like the adults can't even read because it ain't happening in third grade to 12th grade. You know what I'm saying? People left completely behind and shit.
Yep.
Dave, Doc, what's your opinion on this?
I'll go ahead.
I'll say quickly, I think that there's an assumption that, the students, once they pass like third grade or fourth grade, as the curriculum moves beyond like learning to read, then you're reading to learn, and it really becomes about comprehension. And we know that, like, I mean, in a city like in a system like Oakland Unified, I mean, we've got like schools and demographics in the city where, third grade literacy is, coming in sub like 20%. So you basically have 80% of kids probably graduating third grade, not quite prepared for the rigor of fourth grade and learning to reading to learn. And that's when students start falling behind. The other issue that kind of compounds this, which we haven't talked about, is, in all of your cities, in my city, there's a lot of, students coming in from other countries, second language learners. So getting students that are coming in from other countries from throughout the world that don't have a foundation at all in English. And so that becomes another, I mean, it can be seen as an opportunity, but it's a totally different strategy when students are older. And a lot of schools, unless they're focused on like dual language, they're not prepared to take on like a 10th grader that shows up from, some non-English African, non-African, non-English speaking country, or like Guatemala, that doesn't even speak Spanish. They speak Mam, right? A Mayan language dialect. So it gets like, that's another issue that we just don't talk enough about. I mean, I think schools measure it, but on the instructional side, like, it's just not really part of the equation. And that's a big challenge. But I think it's both also. I mean, I think there's the K-12 aspect. But what we know is that K-12 schools are producing and graduating and sending, at that point, adults into the world that, are essentially either have low literacy or in many cases is completely illiterate. And then it becomes a societal issue. And so, like, what do we do there? Is that the role of K-12? Is it a public role? Is it a private partnership? Do we get colleges and universities involved? You know, what's the responsibility of employers at that point? You know, but I think, yeah, I don't think it ever should stop. So I see it being an issue that's both K-12 and post K-12.
I'm gonna do something that, you know, I'm gonna do like one of you guys today, man. I
Little
agree.
devil's advocate.
No. I agree with all of you because I think that the answer is conditional. I love Jubilee's answer as an educator who is in K-12 to be like, it's our responsibility to make this happen. I love a parent who doesn't work in education to be like, this got to happen at home. And I love somebody at the local church that's like, well, it's my responsibility to make sure that the adults in my community can read. This has to be a communal effort. And everybody got to have some checks and balances. And I think that history plays a good part in this. If you're Black, and again, I think every single race and creed has a story of the importance of literacy. And I think it's especially easy if you're Black to understand like, yo, bruh, a slave owner could do whatever they wanted to a slave except teach them how to read. When you read about Frederick Douglass and his master's second wife or somebody like that was teaching him how to read and was like it got ugly for her, and then he stole the ability to read from the white kids around him, his friends, and like taught himself to read and became one of the best thinkers ever. Like, that's inspiring to me. And then right after slavery, when I hear about these poor people who just got out of slavery that collected pennies and built a one-room church school so they could all know how to read because that was true freedom.
Yeah.
How dare I not know that? And I'm sure there's a Mexican story. I'm sure there's a Hmong story, right? I'm sure there's a Turkish story, right, around literacy and not being able to do it. And I think H-Rap said this. I don't think this stuff is by accident. I think that you want an illiterate, dumb body of people because it's easier to control them. But if you can read, man, you're not fit to be a slave. So what does that mean that if you can't read?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, like, I've been going so in on the topic of literacy and all of its facets lately that I'm kind of on fire about it. So I agree. I think all three of you had the right answer. I think that wherever you are and whatever your lot in life is, you need to be like, yo, it's my responsibility to do this. And if we all did do that in certain type of ways, things would be different. Because again, K-12 got a job in a role, but 3 out of 10 kids read on grade level. But when your kid come home, you can make their ass sit down and read something. You can read something with them. Also developing the pleasure of reading, like making sure that reading isn't just always taxing or whatever, right? So I was excited. I just finally watched, you might like this, Omar. I finally finished watching Project Hail Mary. But part of the reason that movie is so good and popular is because the book was just everywhere. Like, and you see, I go to Barnes and Nobles, I'm seeing groups of people going in reading Project Hail Mary together, right? Because it's so scientifically sound, but they're reading for pleasure. So at some point, we can blame K-12, but at some point, if your kid is a kid that just hates to read, they don't just automatically become lovers of reading as adults. Like, you have to work that muscle. So read with your kids, read as a family. I don't care if it's Bible study. I don't care, like I'll stop there.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I definitely agree. You got my brain going. This whole thing, I'm like, when I was growing up, I was a latchkey kid, but there wasn't a moment, no matter which group of people I was with, reading was a part of whatever we were doing. Right? If you you got double dutch, or you got to read 15 minutes before you pick up a rope, start playing. Like, then of course you had your daytime, whatever you were doing during the school day. You had to do reading and your homework before any activities. You get home, like Charles said, if that we would read the Bible, right, at home or on Sundays or at church. You had to read a scripture, and so it just makes me think. Like, it makes me wonder if we've lowered our standards as a nation, and I wonder that because now, back in the day, it was like, look, if you don't read, people, life's just not going to work out for you. Okay. You're going to be somewhere, you're going to be dead, or you're going to be in jail, or somebody gonna take advantage of you. Like the messaging around it was strong. Like reading is beautiful, reading is powerful, right? All this juicy, beautiful language around the power of reading and the necessity of reading. I can't say I hear that anymore. And I'm wondering if that's because now it seems as if there are so many other viable pathways without it, right? There, and I won't quote any people, right? But celebrities, people with influence, right? Whatever the walk of life is, business people that are like, well, I'm a millionaire. I dropped out of college, or I own this and I got all these followers and I made millions as a streamer, and all these different pathways that have been presented or developed over time. And then we have young people and sometimes even parents, because we do have a cadre of parents that are younger that look at that like, child, just go to school, make sure them people don't call me. Don't worry about that, sweetheart. Like, you'll be fine. You could do other things even if you're not a good reader, And so I think like me growing up, it didn't matter who you was talking to, whether they were your family, friends, teacher, pastor, after school coordinator. Everybody cared about reading. It was a thing that you do, a rite of passage. It was a necessity. Now I can't say that I hear that message as often, as much, and from all of our stakeholders that contribute to this.
Man, I'm glad you mentioned this. And David, not to cut you off, I'll be real quick. One of my beefs with I'm just going to call him Trump. I ain't going to say anything else on that subject. Keep it as that, right, Doc? Got to keep the sponsors, baby.
We ain't got none right now, but we do have Mama Toya. Mama Toya's on here, so yes, go ahead. We got it.
Right. No, but I won't.
Texas.
No curse words today, Mama Toya. I'm watching myself. One of my beefs, I think, with any leader is you're trying to basically emulate the best that a human can be, and ultimately try to project like this is what human beings can do. And I got to tell you, that man is first illiterate. You have a president of the United States who cannot read, who is absolutely illiterate. And if you don't believe me, you can look up the thousands of clips from when he was on Saturday Night Live and everyone on the show being like, that man can't read. He can't read. He couldn't read the scripts, couldn't read the cue cards. How about his college classmates who happened to be my professors when he was at Princeton? That boy cheated. That boy can't read. And I asked him, like, hey, man, what's the last book you read? He couldn't name one book, not even his own, not even Art of the Deal, which, by the way, that book sucks. I've read many negotiating books and many leadership books. That book sucks.
Well, he didn't write it. It was ghostwritten. Mr. Moreau ghost wrote that book.
What's the name of the book?
It is a terribly written book, The Art of the Deal.
The Art of the
That's
Steal.
what I'm getting at. Yeah. Even the president of the United States is not advocating for literacy because he's an illiterate human being. And that is the thing that I really am the most adamant about, because Jude, I'm with you. We should be teaching reading, right? But I'm with everybody else. It's got to be this continual thing, because you got to keep elevating that reading level, elevating that level of sophistication, elevating that level of understanding, because it leads into question 2. And David, please, if you had a comment, I want to hear it. And then feel free to kind of jump on in on question 2. Question 2 is kind of like, technology is booming, right? We are not only getting into like, you can Google everything, you can AI everything, and things are on videos. And I'm a little worried, because the question is, how has technology changed what it means to be literate? But I think I want to go deeper, not just in saying, hey, I don't think technology is helping with literacy. I want to go deeper into that question and ask you all, well, like, in terms of what you see, in terms of navigating content, in terms of believing things, in terms of calling out BS surveys. Remember, you used to see a survey on Facebook, and I'd take 2 seconds, look up the survey, and it was fake. Or it was like some fake ass data. So, David, your thoughts and your thoughts on this question about how literacy has changed with technology.
I'll let you all take on this digital literacy question, but I wanted to kind of go back just very quickly, because Charles brought it up. You know, the fight, I wouldn't say the fight for like literacy, but the fight for educational justice in the Mexican American community goes back almost 100 years now. In 1931, in here in San Diego County, in a city called Lemon Grove, a group of Mexican American parents and advocates sued the school district there because their kids were being moved to a segregated school in 1931, and they fought in court and they won that. They won that case in 1931. In 1944, we saw the court case also in California of Mendez versus Westminster, another landmark case that paved the way for Brown versus Board. Right? Yeah, we have. And so I think it's like, the fight for educational justices. We don't want, desegregated schools. We want our kids to go to the schools that have the resources that they believe they deserve. Right. And then you get into the whole question of like, okay, so now what does it look like that you're in like the good school? Let's not forget, my parents attended public school in South Texas that were, de facto segregated, right? But when they would speak Spanish or get caught speaking Spanish, they would get like beat down. Like that's how that's what English as a second language instruction looked like in the 40s and the 1950s, right? They would straight get like hit with a ruler or hit with a board or whatever. Talk about like English only. And so there's a long history behind all of that, but I think ultimately the gold standard is, speaking primarily for Latino American students that are coming with strong Spanish background, is like honoring home language, and then developing strong English side by side, and then we get into like the science of reading and all of those good things. But I wanted to kind of lay that out also.
Yeah, no, man, that's damn. It's such a good tangent because it's kind of what Doc always says about like we out here on our own, and it's about communities galvanizing together to not only challenge the system, but then take care of the very system that's supposed to be taking care of them. It gets back to our question though, technology, bullshit graphs, memes, reels. And I got to tell you, I think the overwhelming majority of Gen Z, no, let me rephrase this. I definitively know countless amounts of studies. Gen Z is getting all of their news from reels and from streaming. None of them are jumping on to like, traditional like CNN or anything like that. And, at best they're watching Daily Show online, or I wish more NPR. What are y'all's thoughts as we get into this like very complicated technological world? The thoughts on literacy and whether it's being, we all know it's being compromised, but it's more of like, what are those skill sets that you need, literacy skill sets you need to navigate a very complex technological world?
Yeah. You want to go, Jube? Right or refusal, Jube? It's up to you.
I'll take it. Technology. I mean, of course, we know technology has changed everything, and I think there's pros and cons to it. I think, don't get mad, but when I think about the skills that a strong 7th or 8th grade reader has.
Did she freeze? Okay.
No, she's good.
My bad.
She's there. Keep going.
My bad.
Oh,
just good.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
8th grade has. I'm not going to say I'm 1,000%. Satisfied with their education, but these skills that adults are lacking now, they would have been built. They would have at least had that, right? Inferential thinking, critical thinking, the ability to compare text, right? That's one. Two, a lot of these Gen Zers, even though they're taking their news from all these places, and everybody plus Jesus is using all these AI, ChatGPT, etc., they have these skills. They are doing it, right? when you see something happen in mass media, whatever it is, right? And then you see a meme within 20 seconds of whatever that report is, a meme that doesn't have any language on it, just some picture mocking the person. And there's thousands of Gen Z response in the comments, laughter and all of that. It's because they've made the connection, right? So the skills exist, but they exist outside of reading books. And that's the problem, because in our world, right, there is still the written word, right? There's still law, there's still policy, right? And there's still a bunch of knowledge in books. And that's, so to me, that's the tension, right? Like, how do we leverage technology to help students or children and young adults build their literacy, both in text and outside of text? I think those are my initial thoughts about that.
Kind of with you there, yeah.
Yeah, I love technology.
About this, man.
Yeah, I love technology. I think technology is
technology
beautiful.
like Napoleon Dynamite's brother.
But yeah, I love technology, and I think it's a great tool. But just similar to a calculator, it's only as good as the person that's using it. And at some point, it's gonna. We're at diminishing returns. I think there's a difference between, like, I get that there's a media savviness and quickness, and I understand what you were saying, Jube. I don't disagree with that. I don't know, but it doesn't replace reading. And I think that, like, but there's these things don't happen in a vacuum, right? There's a confluence of a lot of things that's currently happening. There's the rise of technology, but there's also the drop of organized religion. And why does that matter, right? And it matters because regardless of what religion you was, if you was one of the main three, your butt was reading, and you weren't just reading, you were reading old text that's based in Latin or Hebrew or Arabic, right? Like, so it wasn't just whatever your Bible is translated to, it's going back to some Hebrew or some Latin. So you had to, like, really, like, Sunday school for me, you were reading something and then they would break it down so you could kind of understand. And if you're a Jewish kid and you about to turn a certain age, you got to sing that song. You gotta study that thing, right? Like, so I think that's one thing. I think too, and we don't talk about this enough, and that's why I love this topic. And I'm gonna talk to some adults out there. A lot of our adults can't read, and it's an embarrassing point for them. And what I would say is, I don't think you need to be embarrassed. I do think that you have to take responsibility and try to learn how to read. Now, I'll embarrass myself. I'm very old. I cannot swim, and there are historical reasons why a lot of Black people can't swim. But now I'm grown and I have means, and I have a beautiful vacation home in the Bahamas. And if my dumb ass chooses to not learn how to swim to enjoy that beautiful ocean, then I'm the one that got to suffer those consequences. There's a whole new world if you're able to read. And I think that I think we have to help our elders and our adults that can't read be able to. And I'll just share this as far as the technology, right? Because the technology is there, but it's supposed to be a helpmate, but it will take you over and consume you if you allow it to. And at that point, I just don't think that that's going to be good for anybody. AI should be a tool. It shouldn't be your father. But two, a very real story for me, one of my best friends, man, when we were 16, he used to come over and we would play NBA Live and have a good time. And this is like a really well-respected dude, great football player, a tough cat. Like, he was respected in the neighborhood. Then we had world history together. And when I tell you, man, he had to read out loud, popcorn style reading, and he's doing this out loud and can't move forward. And I just watched him, like, in that moment, be like, I ain't never coming back to this place again. I'm never coming back. But then 5 years later, he was dead. What we won't do in schools, what technology can't do, that level of ridicule, that level of feeling ostracized, the streets be open. The streets stay open. And the crazy thing is, homie couldn't read, but he could eyeball, like, and do complex math, cutting up dope and selling it. You can't tell me that people don't have the capacity to learn. It's just that, what are you willing to learn, and what are the circumstances require you to be able to do? And adults that are watching, the circumstances, I know it ain't clear and present for you right now, but we can see it. The circumstances are telling you that you got to learn how to read. You got to read with your kids, and you can't be ashamed that if you can't read so good, that you still push that kid to read and you sit with them and you learn something yourself. That I'll even wrap that into my final thought. But this was a really good. Technology won't save us. And it's like a dog that's loyal until you stop feeding it, and then it start eating off of you, because that's what's gonna happen.
I want to second what Jubilee said, what you said, what even David was alluding to, which is like, it's a very double-edged sword. And I think even one of the comments, yeah, dude, I was looking at, a double-edged sword comment is, I think technology is the double-edged sword, because you want to be able to use it to help adults acquire the skill set to read. Even if it's just going into ChatGPT and be like, hey, ChatGPT, let me do a quick assessment. Can you assess my reading level? And then can you teach me how to develop my reading skills from here? Like, I think that's a great use of technology to provide help and service. The problem is that it becomes all consuming, and people have now really used that as a vehicle to think for themselves and to answer questions versus trying to read and figure it out themselves. I'll leave it up to you all, because we're at the show's end. You can kind of give a final thought, or yeah, man, appreciate that. Or you can answer kind of the final question, which was alluded to earlier, which is essentially, if literacy is a predictor of economic opportunity, why isn't adult literacy kind of a big national priority? Like, half of the United States really can't read. And if they can, they would do better economically. So kind of begs the question, why isn't anyone doing something about this? Or just any final thoughts on what we discussed?
I mean, by the time you get to adult literacy, I'm not going to say all bets are off, but it's like, to Charles's point, like, that is going to be connected to the agency of that adult, individual. I think for us as people who are passionate about this, understand the power of it, our educators and stakeholders in this space, and every parent out there, every teacher out there, like, we have the responsibility to be the whistleblowers and the noisemakers around this and bringing it back to the forefront. I think we have lowered our standards. I think that as a nation, we don't care as much. I think that technology for the consumer, it is all consuming, but for the person who's creating it, that's great, because we need somebody who's going to be on this workforce, right? Who's going to be on this team, right? Who's going to be, not in a necessarily a managerial position, or not be on this Forbes 500 list. Like, we need workers, and it is fulfilling kind of the purpose that education was built in this country, right? And so I think that's what we're seeing. I also think when we're talking about again, this K-12 education, by the time you get to adulthood, now you need to make some money. Like, now you have a rent and you have to buy bread and eggs, and so now these things are competing, which is why it's important for us to really prioritize learning and the foundation of reading being cemented early on, because the 8-year-old don't got to pay no rent. You know what I mean? The job is to go to school and to learn. So I think it's we've got to prioritize it, and I keep saying K-12, but I really mean in those early years, and encourage parents. I know where our kids are all consumed with technology. They're on their cell phones and all of that. But I have evidence just from my own kid. I know it's not a strong data point. It's just me and my kid and what I observed when I went to visit him in class, but it's not the cell phones. It's not. It's not the cell phones. It's not the technology. It's the quality of teaching, and it is the training of the workforce responsible for teaching reading. And we have gotten it wrong for decades, and we are seeing the results of this. That's what we're seeing. And so now we're trying to turn it over and fix it with, like I said earlier, the science of reading. But that stuff's not going to happen overnight. And it will take all of us to improve this. And I think, unfortunately, we have to use the data from our 1 in 5 adults that are reading to inspire us and to light a fire under us, to let us know this can happen again in another 30 years if we don't do what we have to do.
Solid point. Dave?
It's a. I mean, it's
Weird
a very.
knowledge.
It is a very like somber and a very a serious issue. I think so I've worked both in the high school and in the TK through 8 space, and I've worked with high school students that we did everything we could do in 4 years, and they still weren't prepared to fully literate upon graduation. Because they had been failed by schools from K to 8, right? And you can only do so much, and that's just the reality of it. And it's sad. We used to sit with kids and tell them. I mean, probably is a not a very motivating situation, but we're like, listen, if you don't graduate from high school, being in East Oakland, African American or Latino youth, this is kind of what your life is going to look like, right? This is the percentage the percentage is a 20% chance you're going to end up incarcerated. There's this percent, and it was like they were like real numbers, and it was very sobering. It didn't start and end in high school. Going back to Jubilee's point, it starts early on in the early elementary years, and so I just think in terms of like investing, in terms of like policy. I don't have much to say about the adult issue. I mean, I think that's very real, but what we can control essentially is funding and direction for K-12, $1 trillion industry is building some real accountability around early literacy and training for our teachers to actually do the work. Because once you miss that mark and the train starts going, it's very hard for young people to catch up, because then other factors start to kick in, social emotional factors, feelings of shame. Charles talked about that, even for fourth and fifth graders, it's like, I'm not reading at the level of my peers. I'm sitting in a classroom pretending that I know what's happening, and I have no idea, what this teacher's talking about. And that wears and tears on you. That creates trauma for young people. And so, I mean, I think the issue is very real. It's a great topic. And I think, if I had to throw all of my, coins into a bag, I would say we got to get serious about TK through 5.
I agree. And I it was just a great episode. Glad I got to connect with y'all over the World Cup, and glad we got Jude back and all of this. I would say this. You live in a capitalist society, and in a capitalist society, you need cheap labor. You need labor so cheap to the point where it competes with international labor. And let me just tell you this. You should look up what are the jobs that jails make money off of. The prison industry made over $2 billion selling furniture. When I went to Cal State Hayward, you turn over the furniture at Pioneer Heights, where I lived as in student housing. All of that furniture was made by inmates. The university had a contract with the prisons in that way, right? Like, so if the economy is sucking, and I need cheap labor, well, cheap labor comes when you can't read, man. We need these people to do these things, and you can't really demand things if you can't read. You can't demand things when you got a diploma, hell, even a college degree at this point. So you really stuck. That's why I think partially why there isn't this fight to make sure all these adults can read. And also people are trying to get ahead. If my household is struggling, I'm not worried about what you can do. Let me go get that job so I can do X, Y, and Z. I think it's something that you got to want. Reading is something you got to want. It's something you got to want to do, and it's something you got to value, and you got to value it. I think if you really do want help, it's help out there to get. I've sat with people and helped them read before, and I would do it again. I've been in a book club since I was 18, 19 years old. Some of those people are still in that book club with me, and I need it, and I love it. But that one of the strongest predictors, man, is because there's a reason. There's more reasons why so much money is concentrated up in these areas than it is in other places, and that gap is growing. So K-12, get your stuff together on reading. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's some teachers in that building that don't read so good either. The same way there are some teachers teaching math that ain't that good at math either. And that's the ultimate universal language, right? Math is the language of the cosmos. It's the language everybody speaks. If we find life somewhere else, they're gonna speak the language of math. So before we can even have that conversation, I think churches, I think people, I think communities have to start. We have to take a communal responsibility again around this stuff, man. We don't do it, and we're not gonna come up out of this if we don't start. So
yeah, and
yeah, I'll land there. I'm good. Because I'm just gonna repeat myself.
I want to make one last plug. It's something that we haven't talked about, and it's something that our communities came under fire for, with this whole like anti-reverse, woke stuff. Is like if our children don't see themselves and their people in materials, and they don't recognize the stories, like, that's a whole other issue, right? And we're still in 2026, and we still face that issue. So needing to see Black and brown faces in the curriculum, in the stories, all the way through.
And I'll just end on, Dr. Fuller's a friend of the show. Y'all know what he means to me personally. And Dr. Fuller said, we used to fight so we can have a seat at the counter, so we can have a seat at the counter. But now we got the counter and we can't read the damn menu. And he's been saying that for a long time. And that prophecy is coming to pass.
Yeah, man, I'll be very quick and just say thank you. That was a hell of an episode. Thank you to our audience that did an exceptionally good job of interacting, man. That was awesome. I was really glad to see a ton of our friends interact. Please join us every single Tuesday, 3:30.
Not 30. Where did 30 come in at?
Oh, it's where I don't know where 3:30 came from, man. I'm on vacation mode myself. Where the hell am I at? 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern time. I'm your co-host, Omar Yanad, on behalf of David Castillo, the Beard of Knowledge, Jubilee, our queen, and the real doctor, Dr. Charles Cole. Peace, love, salutations. Gracias. We will see you next week.
God bless. And read what